Welcome back to News from the Floating Island. We are your hosts. I'm Eklo Christopher, an ex-professor of economics.
And I'm Helga Eugene Doctor, an ex-entrepreneur.
Today, we are meeting with the highly successful entrepreneur and the University of Iceland's most valued economics professor, Ragnar Kistner, to learn a little bit more of how our country is faring today in time. Professor, would you please remind us of the basics?
Of course. Iceland is a parliamentary republic, which means in simple terms that we have a system of elections and have power in a legislative cabinet. The cabinet is a source of leadership in our country. We have a president and a prime minister. The prime minister serves as the head of government, whereas the president serves as its chief of state. Iceland follows a civil system of law. Recently, tourism has boomed in our country. We have more tourists per year than we have citizens here in Iceland. This makes prices for everyone in Iceland sky high, especially in Reykjavik.
That's definitely a more current phenomenon. Our economy is expanding through tourism. A current article published has informed us that we are having diminishing glaciers. This could mean increasing disaster for us regarding tourism, since glaciers are the highlight of the trip and reason why many people come.
Fishing and aluminum works aid our country's exports. Fishing makes sense considering the fact that we are an island. Also, as previously mentioned, tourism plays a major role, especially because of the northern lights and the glaciers.
Uniquely speaking, Iceland only has less than 350,000 people in the whole country, with over 216,000 right here in Reykjavik, our capital city. However, the population is increasing with migrants.
Professor Kistner, we are definitely aware how college costs are lower here compared to the rest of the world. And here in Iceland, we have our own source of renewable energy. With geysers, hot springs, fumaroles, and more, we're in a way sitting on a giant vent. The fact that we have geothermal energy makes us less dependent on oil and other forms of non-renewable energy from other parts of the world.
That is correct.
How about GDP? How are we looking today, Professor? I understand that in 2008, during our financial crisis, we were at 17.66 billion US dollars. I bet we can see vast improvements today.
Well, where should I start? In 2017, we were at $24 billion, and in 2018, we were at $26 billion. And it's expected to rise in future years. We know this to be true because if we look at our GDP growth rates over the past year, we can predict that there will be an expansion in the months and years to come. Our growth rates for GDP have been in a cycle for many years. So by looking at the cycle and the different patterns, we can rightfully believe our predictions to be true.
To add to your statement, I just want to point out that our employment rate was increasing, but in the last 10 years, the rate of unemployment was decreasing overall. In 2008, we hit 2.3%. But in 2010, we were up at 9% unemployment rate. Then in 2014, we were at 6.1%. In 2017, which was our lowest unemployment rate of all, we were at 2%. Finally, in 2018, we were at 3.1% as of October. We are now in our target zone. This will be impacting and is impacting the economic health in a positive way, with just the right amount of citizens ready to take a job.
Regarding inflation, over the last 10 years, we've had a big decrease. In 2008, inflation was at 6%. In 2009, we were at a giant 18%, but it has gone down. In 2014, we were at 3.5%, and finally in 2018, we were at 3%. Where our GDP is at is almost where we want our inflation rate to be at. Also, a major event that Iceland is still trying to recover from was the 2008 financial crisis that crippled our country.
According to economicshelp.com, aggregated demand has fallen because secured lending to individuals has fallen since the 2008 crisis, which was spoken about before. But the prices still had risen. This was horrible for our economy because even though the demand for products has fallen, companies still would raise their prices.
Tourism has created such a job industry for so many Icelanders. With such cheap flights and beautiful sights, no wonder people from all over the world want to come here. However, we understand that this is a downfall. With millions of tourists per year, this makes Iceland such an expensive place to live. And this is one of our economic challenges to face in this day and age. Take Reykjavik, for example. A friend I know visited here just a few weeks ago, and she complained about paying 1,000 kronar for a quick market sandwich.
A gas station sandwich, that's about $8 US.
That's right. My cousin takes up residency in Reykjavik, and she is constantly complaining about how it is getting more and more difficult to live in the city. Not only that, but over half of our population lives just in Reykjavik. If only there were ways for this not to be so.
So what we're saying is that tourism affects everyday citizens because prices are so expensive for average needs such as food, clothing, etc.
Exactly.
Reykjavik is a thriving, beautiful city that tourists love. But tourists do not live in Reykjavik. There are citizens who do and have to deal with everyday high prices. It is truly not right. To help the citizens, Reykjavik as a city should have everyday prices be lower so that citizens can afford to live in Reykjavik. Also, this would drive up the tourist count.
But what would we do for now? Since Reykjavik is so expensive to live in, it would be easier to just move to a whole other city.
Well, recently, I've developed an idea. What if the Icelandic government began building another large city on a different part of the island? One perhaps that is still near many tourist attractions. This would keep our flowing economy booming. At first, it would be cheaper to live there, but then we'd build up prices of available apartments and houses to keep too many citizens from moving. The prices for everyday necessities and other stuff will be, the prices will be different to draw in more tourists. This would cause Reykjavik to compete with the city and drop its prices as well.
I see what you're getting at. That would hopefully spread out the population so that more people could live cheaper in extremely populated cities with much work. The two Icelandic megalopolis cities would compete for lower and lower prices, driving down citizen hardship, while driving up tourist count. Therefore, Reykjavik wouldn't be the only densely populated city choice for citizens to live in.
What about cost? Surely the cost to build a whole other city would be sky high, Professor.
Well, our economy is booming with the dollars of millions of tourists each year, as previously mentioned. So, what if the government set up a savings account that would raise the money collected from higher taxes of these highly profitable companies? We could start with just one other city, but then grow a few more scattered across Iceland. Once we have the money, of course. However, this would mean raising prices slightly for tourists. Would raise money for the plane tickets, tours, etc., in order to get these taxes.
We have so many tourists each year that I don't think slight price changes in already cheap plane tickets and tours would alter many vacation destination mindsets.
On the other side of the spectrum, we could perhaps simply lower lodging and food prices in Reykjavik by having the government offer subsidies to some of the highly profitable companies in the city that tourists flock to, but also where citizens go. The competition between these companies and stores would skyrocket, and prices would drop in Reykjavik due to it.
I see what you're getting at, but what's the incentive? Why would the government do that? Certainly not for their own gain, because they have nothing to earn from it.
I agree with the professor. I don't think that's realistic at all.
Well, I have just one more idea. Since so many people come to Iceland for the northern lights, how about we increase the number of these tours, as well as the number of glacier tours in other current Icelandic cities other than Reykjavik? Reykjavik would battle these other cities for tourists, and because of all the competition between the cities, prices would drop between the cities.
This would put more money into the economy from tourists coming to all these cities. With these new tours, more tourists would see a reason to vacation here. The only issue I sense is that it would create so many more jobs, the unemployment rate will drop.
Well, with that money from tourism, the government could set up saving accounts, using them to care for the diminishing glaciers, of course, by hiring workers, putting money into research, purchasing tools, and so on. The more they diminish, the more at risk we are for losing this powerful asset of tourism. Our population is increasing anyway with migrants. These people will help fill in the jobs.
So it's decided then. This idea ties together a brand new plan as well as a previously mentioned one that is highly possible for the economy of Iceland.
Iceland, we look forward to seeing you blossom.
I'm Eklo Christopher Dotter.
And I'm Helga Eugene Dotter. And our guest is Ragnar Keithsonar. We want to thank you for joining us.
Takk fyrir.